Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ICIST webinar. Today, we're very happy to have Robert Laws from Georgetown University here to give us a presentation about AI-driven data from raw insights to viral mastery. Before Robert's presentation, I'd like to give you a very brief introduction about Robert himself. Robert has been working with Georgetown University since 2007 and at the Georgetown Qatar campus since 2008. Through this period, Robert has played a leading role in teaching students, faculty, and staff about technology. Although Robert's academic background is in history, he has gained a mastery of multiple types of digital skills, including web development, audio and video production, data visualization, and artificial intelligence. He studied history, receiving a BA and MA from George Mason University, and also received an MLS degree from SUNY Buffalo. Robert is currently involved in many different projects in Georgetown, Qatar, including teaching courses on data visualization and artificial intelligence. Robert has played a leading role in the university's engagement and adoption of emerging technologies and running the library's innovation lab for advanced media and technology teaching and learning since its inception in 2023. And now let's welcome Robert. Robert, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Hello, everyone. I'm here today to talk about the intersection of artificial intelligence and data visualization. More specifically, data analytics is really what I want to talk about, data analytics, data visualization. So let's get started. Okay, so just a quick introduction. So you heard a little bit about who I am. I'm in the library. My official job title is librarian, but for the past, I would say 5 years, I've been also teaching credit-bearing courses here at the Georgetown in Qatar campus. So I teach courses on data visualization and artificial intelligence. I teach students how to use tools like Tableau, ChatGPT, Claude, and others. So what we will be doing today is we'll be doing a mix of talking about data visualization, data analytics, and artificial intelligence, and then also doing hands-on activities. So I believe you'll have access to the data files that I'll be using throughout this webinar. So if you want to follow along, you'll be able to. I'll be switching back and forth from the presentation to the AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini in particular. So I guess next thing is the question, how is AI transforming data analytics and visualization? And of course, there's kind of scary stories out there that AI is going to make a data analyst and other types of workers obsolete. And there's a kernel of truth to that. AI is definitely going to impact the job market in some emerging ways. It's not quite clear exactly how it's going to impact, but we can see in fields like software engineering that AI is as good as many junior software engineers. So there are definitely questions about how AI is impacting job market. For data analytics and data visualization, it's slightly different. AI can do some of the things that data analyst does, but not quite to the same degree as software engineering. So we'll explore what that means. To explore this intersection, I'll be using primarily ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. Hopefully, you have access to one or all of these. You only really need one to do all the examples. I'll be moving back and forth just because some of the tools are better or more interesting than others for a particular task. I do have the paid version of all three of those, so that you will see some differences if you're just on the free version. But we'll get into that. Okay. So let's begin by why this is an important topic to discuss. So data is everywhere. I mean, this is something that I'm sure you've heard for years and years. It was true probably 20, 30, 40 years ago. It is true now. Data is growing exponentially. We produce, mountains of data every day, and organizations, companies, nonprofits, all look to data to help them make decisions. So we're just surrounded by data. Traditional methods of working with data, for example, working with data manually in Excel or SQL queries, is how a lot of people work with data, but they aren't necessarily the most efficient ways to do it, especially if you have to do a lot of work by hand. There are ways to definitely use AI to improve efficiency, scalability, and automation. And we'll talk a lot about that. We'll demo that as well. So there's a place for AI within the data analyst workflow, and we'll look at that. AI technologies are allowing for new approaches to data analytics. That's because they're improving rapidly. So when ChatGPT first came out, just like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, at least the version that we're using as consumers, it wasn't very good at working with data or doing calculations, mathematics, things like that. It was a large language model is specialized to work with language, words, text. But things have changed. Companies like OpenAI and others have introduced features that allow their models to do reasoning, to actually take their time to reflect and to work through problems, including mathematical and logical problems. So data analytics is a variation of that. But the key thing I want to make clear to begin with is that AI is not replacing human analysts, but enhancing capabilities. At least that's the way I see it in the short term. The AI helps deal with some of the tedious things that a data analyst would have to do, and we'll go over that. But the AI also will help data analysts brainstorm, think through problems with data, and we'll look at that too. Okay, so moving on. And I believe if people ask questions, we'll have time at the end for questions. And I think that'll be mediated as well. Okay, so this is what I'm going to focus my this webinar on. These four kind of subcategories of AI and data analytics. So, and these really come to some of the workflow that we deal with as data analysts. So processing, cleaning, structuring, and transforming data. We have to do that initially before we can really do the true analysis. Visualization, when we're doing exploring the data, we visualize it often to see if we can spot insights or trends and so forth. AI can do some of this now fairly efficiently. Handling large data sets. Now, this one's interesting because there are limitations in the AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude that they can't handle more than maybe 100,000, well, not even that, maybe even 10,000 rows of data. They have real limitations on that due to just the way that they work internally. They don't have memory, so to speak, in terms of like they don't remember things over multiple chats, at least not at the moment. And they have limited context windows, basically the ability to take in data and then be able to work with it within the limitations that the companies are giving to consumers right now. But we'll talk about how we can still work with large data sets, because even if we can't process it directly in AI, we'll use AI to generate code in Python, for example, that allow us to do it with code directly. And then insights and research. This is interesting, and this is what I teach students here, is that they can ask AI to help them look at the data and come up with some research questions and learn things from the data. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about AI and data processing. So like I said, AI can help clean, organize, transform data. We're going to look at ChatGPT for this and see what it does. So the first thing I'm going to do is jump out of the presentation for just a moment, and I'm going to go to this page here. Now, this is the data files that I've shared with the moderators, and these correspond, the numbers correspond to the section. So number 1 is the cleaning section, and so on and so forth. So we're going to start with this first data set here, and I'll just open it. It's really basic. It's only 10 rows of data, but you can see if you look at the data briefly, there's some inconsistency problems with the data. The data has some issues. So it's a customer order list, roughly speaking. And we have customer names, when they ordered, what they ordered, quantity, price, whether it's shipped, delivery date, so forth. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of the data here. But you can see the data is not in good condition, really. So what we're going to do, and this is what AI can do. Now, I could personally go through this and kind of eyeball and see, oh, there's a problem here. We have some missing data here. Format issue, inconsistency here. I could do that manually, but this is only 10 rows of data. You can imagine what happens when we have 1,000 or so forth. So what we could do at this point is come to a tool like ChatGPT, and I'm using 4.0 for most of what I'm going to demo today, although there's other models available. But 4.0 is a good general purpose model, and will allow us to do pretty much everything we want to do here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this customer order is dirty. Yours might be called different, but it's the same, you'll have roughly the same name, and I'll upload it. Now, the key here to using AI with data is not just loading the data. That's not enough. We actually have to talk with the AI, give it instructions, tell it what we want to do, and that's the concept of prompt engineering. We write prompts. Now, the AI models are improving, so the sophistication needed with prompt engineering is varies. But the important thing, I think, for prompts is just to be precise. And that really takes effort to figure out, to tell exactly what I want to do. Be very, very precise. So what I'll do is I'll say, this data set has some cleaning issues that need to be resolved. Let's begin by listing the problems you can identify. So basically, I'm telling it, hey, there's some issues here, and I want you to figure out what's going on. Now, it's doing an analysis. And the cool thing about this is it actually does some work in the background using Python, and the analysis here. Now, what it's doing is it actually is identifying data cleaning problems. And you can see it's going through this one by one. And it is correctly identifying some issues here. Missing data, that's definitely a problem. Ideally, you wouldn't have any missing data, but it happens sometimes. You have to figure out how you want to deal with that. Inconsistent formatting, absolutely. This is definitely an issue. Depending on how you work with the data, this could actually cause problems. Formatting email, that's a problem too, especially if you're using this data to actually send out emails. And then there's a few other things. So it's identified some of the issues, not necessarily every issue, but some of the issues here successfully. So what I could do at this point is I could follow along and say, fix these issues, or I can maybe query it a little bit further. Since I actually know what the data looks like, I can get a little bit more closely focused on here. And in particular, the quantity field here has a negative number in this. And it did not identify that the first time around. Oh, actually, yes, it kind of actually it did. I take that back. Here it is. So this is good because we can check its work and see what is missing or present here. Actually, it does look good. The only thing I do see missing now that I look at it is if we look at the dates are formatted differently as well, and that could cause a problem. So let me mention that. Is there an issue with the date formatting that will need cleaning? Okay, so let's just see what it says here. Again, this is straightforward. This isn't anything too exciting at this point, but it does show that you can interact with AI in this manner. You can actually have it review your data and identify problems. Okay. Okay. So now again, it's suggesting it would like to help me fix this. So one thing you can do, maybe you know this, is that can you fix the problems and output a new Excel file? Now, again, this is really basic prompt, not very sophisticated, but just to get us moving, I want to do this like so. Okay. So again, it's analyzing. Now, what it actually is doing behind the scenes is it actually is processing the data. It's actually applying Python code here to fix the problems and then to output a updated file, which it did here. And now we can download and actually look at this and see if it was successful in making the corrections. So here we go. We have this here. And you can see it definitely did solve most of the problems. The dates are consistent now. It missed this. This is an issue here. The white space here did not fix, but it did fix the issue with the -1. Dates are consistent, and it looks like email is correct now. So again, not perfect. This is where we would have to make sure we follow through with our prompts to tell it, hey, make sure you don't miss the white space issue. Now I could go into more detail into that, but I'm going to move on at this point because hopefully you get the point of this demonstration that you can actually, and if you have a very large data set, I would give it a subset of the data. Yeah. And you can then have it do a preliminary assessment. Now, there are other tools like Tableau and Power BI that actually do some of this as well, but this works pretty well for small data sets. So if you only have maybe 100 rows or so, this is actually an effective approach, and it can be pretty quick. You can see it gave us feedback very quickly. Okay, returning to our presentation. So what we saw is that it did data processing. We'll come back to this in a minute. I actually want to show this one here. So this is the original data set we had. And these are all the issues that were coming up or I could be identified as problems. And you can see there's quite a lot. So even in the small little data set, there's a lot of issues. Now, another way you can use AI to do the data processing, data cleaning is actually indirectly. And what I mean by that is instead of actually having AI work with your data, by uploading the file, if you identify issues with your data, and you know that there's you want to work within Excel, maybe you have privacy issues, you don't want to upload the data for privacy issues or so forth, you can actually ask AI to help you with Excel for create the formulas to fix and clean up the data. So a good way to show that is we had our white space issue. So how can I write an Excel formula to remove white space before and after text fields in my data? Okay. Oops. Okay. So this is asking it not to actually do the cleaning, but to give us access to a way to do it with Excel. And AI is really good at this. Hopefully you're using this approach to AI already to give, so, it's hard to remember all the formulas. But I often come here just because I know I can quickly get the formula syntax I need, then I can come back. And again, the way that you would do this is you would add a new column here. Okay, and there we go. Oops. Sorry, grabbed the wrong thing there. That's what I meant. Insert. Okay. So what you would do here is you would just, the formula it gave us was trim, which trims the leading and trailing white space. And then you could apply it that way, and then you could just cascade down. So it did solve that problem there. Now, missing data obviously is not going to solve that problem, but we did solve our problem there. And even though I didn't get AI to do that directly, indirectly through use of formulas. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, now we're going to talk about data visualization. So just recently, within the last year or so, these AI tools became really good at working with data in terms of creating the data visualizations. So this is really helpful. So let's go and actually just start working with the data for this. So, and the one I want to use for this, let me just go back. Oh, let me close that and let me go here. Okay. Is I have some data about the FIFA World Cup finals, and then we're going to look at a few other things, but we're going to start with this one first. Now, if we look at the data for this, it's just a normal table and all the different final soccer matches, basically, and who played, what the score was, where it was held, attendance, so forth. This data is interesting because there's not an obvious way you would want to visualize it. Depends what you want to get out of this data. So the cool thing is, and we'll start a new chat, is that you can actually ask ChatGPT to help suggest ways to do it. So I have this data set. What would you suggest for possible ways to visualize the data? I don't have a particular goal in mind. I just want to explore. So I'm telling it basically come up with some suggestions. I'm not biased anyway in terms of what I want to visualize, but I want you to suggest some ways that this data could be visualized. Okay, so this is great because not you wouldn't necessarily always know the best possibilities in terms of visualizing your data. And you can see already here, it's giving me multiple different possibilities here. So a time series analysis, a line chart, a map, a bar chart, pie chart. So even a scatter plot, there's just from that small data set, there's so many ways you can visualize. So this is where you can actually use the power of AI to do the visualization. So let's begin with a time series of the number of goals scored. So I'm being a little bit more verbose, just to be explicit about what I'm having to do. So now this is the point where it actually will take our data, understand what we want to do in terms of visualization, and then actually do the visualization for us. So again, this is being done with code behind the scenes. This is again Python doing this. Okay, so it looks like it finished, and here we go. So this is actually pretty cool. Now, the way that they've advanced their data analytic tools, at least in ChatGPT, is that they actually make them interactive. So I actually expanded that, and I can interact with this to some degree. Let's see. Well, it's not very dramatic, but I can change colors if I want, at least in theory, although it doesn't seem to be agreeing with that. Oh, here we go. Now, yes, you have to switch to interactive mode versus static. Now this is interactive mode, so I can actually hover and see some of the data as I go over it. Now, now I can change, the colors will respond to my changes. So this is cool. So you can make it a little bit more interesting. You can actually download this as well. But if we go back to a static view, we have this. Again, this is helpful and it's well done. And when they first released this feature, the graphs, especially the axes, were not all as well designed, but it's come a long way and it's really well done now. So you can see what we're seeing here is goal by winner, goal by runner up. Obviously, the winners are going to be higher in terms of the goal scored, this axis here, the y-axis, versus the runner up. But sometimes they're the same, and that's when you have a penalty shootout. So that comes up too. So this is interesting. Okay, so that's great. I could get out of this view now, and it will actually give me a little bit of context or background to what it's doing here, and do a basic analysis too. Even though I didn't ask it to do it, it offers that to me. Again, I could go into more detail about that. So I'm going to do one more just while we're here, and what I want to do is a bar chart. Now create a bar chart of the countries, oops, and their overall performance over time. I'll just say overall performance. Over time might make it think that I want to do a time series. I actually do on bar chart, so I should be careful with my wording here. Although again, ChatGPT is pretty good at figuring out what you want to do. Okay, again, it's doing the analysis and it's presenting this here. And this can be interactive as well, as you can see. You just change that. So it shows us very clearly, you know, Brazil's won the most World Cups, and other countries. Surprisingly, only these number of countries actually have ever won the World Cup. So it's a limited group of countries, really. But this is great because it also gives us some analysis. Again, this isn't deep analysis, but it's just something basic. But you can see just from that one data set, we're already getting multiple visualizations. So, and we've just scratched the surface with this. We could go a lot deeper than this. Let's move on though. So what we're doing there is we're basically able to take our data and do this. Now, this is one that I didn't show, but I'm actually going to bring this up into Gemini. And one thing I want you to see here is that you have all our data points, but we have outliers here, and it's visualized differently. Now, this was done in ChatGPT. I want to see if Gemini could also handle that. So I'm in Gemini now, and the one I have to use for this is 2.0 Flash because it can take data files, whereas some of the other models cannot. So what I'm going to do is go back here, and I'm going to grab the study GPA correlation. So basically, it's a correlation, or it's two data points. One about how many per student, how many hours they spend studying, and what their GPA is. So it's trying to look for a relationship between that two. So can you visualize this data? I'm interested in analyzing correlation between studying and GPA. Can you highlight outliers differently than other data points? Okay. Okay, so let's see what it could come up with. So again, Gemini is improving and it now has features to do these data visualizations. Okay, so it's going to use a scatter plot, which is what I expected. Now, one thing it did not do is we have outliers here. You can hover over them. There's just a handful of them, but it's not really highlighting those, which is unfortunate, actually. Let's see. Okay. As we go further, it is outliers highlighted. Aha. So it's highlighting it within the tooltip. As you can see, inlier, this is an inlier, and it's identified, well, not really saying that these are outliers. Okay, so it's interpreting what it thinks the outlier is. Now that could be based upon some sort of calculation, but I'm not sure. Okay, so now we can ask it, how many outliers did you identify? So we can actually dive into the visualization, ask it to explain. Only said it found one. Now calculate. Okay, so it's actually changed its response mid response. So it depends on how it's interpreting what an outlier is. These might seem to be outliers, at least in ChatGPT, but maybe not here. Again, this is another cool way you can visualize your data. And depending on which model you choose, ChatGPT was able to do this here. Now, let's move on. The next one we want to focus on is handling large data sets with AI. So the big challenge, so this gets back to what data analysts actually, not all the time, but a lot of the time spend working on is larger data sets, data scientists as well. And AI is not really going to help you with that because it just can't handle the volume of data, the size of the files. But you can use AI to generate code in ways to work with the data. So what I want to demo now is using AI to generate code. Now, what I recommend to do this is not to just ask AI to generate the code from nothing. You actually can benefit by giving it some sample data to give it a way to understand what you're working with. Okay, and the way we've done that, and actually I will close this now, is with let's see. Yes, sample cafe data. So if we look at this here, I've got two files here. I got a sample data, which is this one here. And you can see what this is two sheets in this Excel spreadsheet, or now Google Sheet actually, is the number of orders. So I only have this many orders. These are individual transactions. So this order ID, what they, where they bought it, what item they bought on the menu, and date, time, quantity, and if it was a drive-through or not. And the menu corresponds to this. So these are the things they're buying. So the actual data is 250,000 rows of data. This is just a smaller, much smaller sample, but it's detailed enough that the AI is able to understand what the full data set looks like just from this small sample. So it's enough to work with. Okay, so the way I would work with this is I would actually go to Claude. Now, Claude recently got an update to 3.7 Sonnet, And the big news about this was that it made Claude, or it was a model that was specialized, so to speak, in coding. It's really good at helping with code if you're writing HTML, JavaScript, or things like Python. So that's why I'm going to show this one now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the sample data set here. So I've oops, that's the full thing. Here it is, sample here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it, let's walk through it. So this is a small sample of a much larger data set. I want to analyze, or I want to use Python to analyze this data. In particular, I'm interested to understand the number of transactions is defined by a single row of data per menu item. Can you help me do this analysis? Okay. Okay, and I could give some more information. I use a VS Code with Python, or I would prefer, or I want to use, I will use. Sometimes you have to be direct with AI and not beat around the bush. I will use VS Code with Python. Okay, so I give that. So it now has a sample of the data. So it can actually structure its response based upon our actual data. So you can see it's going quite quick here. It is putting together some code. So this is cool. Okay, so now it's actually reflecting on its answer and trying to put it together. Okay, so let's see what we get here. So actually, this is interesting. It looks like it's actually trying to run this internally. Okay, at some point I'll stop it. I'll actually, because I think it actually wants to do this code within the Claude interface. Can you actually just give me the code? I will run it separately. Okay, so let's see if now it does this correctly. Okay, that's what I was hoping for. So for some reason, when I told about VS Code, it didn't understand that I actually wanted to do it on my own when I said that, but I was more explicit and now it gave it to me. So the cool thing about this is that it does this code really well. So we have all this here. And what I could do is copy this and bring it over to a VS Code. Now, VS Code is a separate software that could be used to actually run the code generated. So what I'm going to do is actually, I've already got the code up here and is basically the same thing. I'll just show you how it works. So what I've done is I've put the data file in the same directory, same location as this. And all I have to do at this point is basically tell it to run the code. Now, the way that this is set up is that it's going to give me the output in my terminal, or the kind of just the text-based interface here. Now, the reason it's taking a little bit of time is because there's a lot of data it has to go through. It has to go through 250,000 rows of data. But you can see it actually was able to do that. And it gave us some analytics here. Most popular product, Americano, category drink, transaction count. Now, what I teach here at the university is Tableau. So this is basically the same exact analysis that we did there with Tableau. And you can see the results are identical. Now, I do this sometimes just to verify that what I'm getting from the output corresponds to what another tool is telling me. And you can see what we have here is Americano is category drink, and countable orders is 20,731, which does correspond to what we got here. So what this tells me is that the code that the AI produced was successful in running or working with the data set and actually producing the results that I was looking for. So again, this is kind of it's a side note here is that I'm doing data analytics here, but this is where software engineers maybe need to take note because the code that it produces on the first time around basically was pretty good. Well, actually, not pretty good. It was successful. It gave me the answers that I wanted to, and I didn't have to make much adjustments to this. So this is where AI is getting really good. And you can see it gives me some explanation of what's going on with the script as well. This is probably the path that I'm going to use this AI tool more, is to actually help me generate code to do data analysis outside of the AI tool itself. Now, I'll show you one other thing quickly. I did an advanced version of the Python code here, and this one is using Plotly to do visualizations as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this, and then I'm going to run this. So again, this is code generated from advanced from AI, from Claude. Okay, so again, this is the advanced one, and what it's doing is it's analyzing the data. It's running all this code here, which is fairly extensive, and it's going to output a couple of things for us. So that'll run for just a second, and we'll come right back to that. But yeah, this is definitely, if you're not using the AI tools in this manner, this is definitely something to explore further. And we'll just check on that, but this is where we're going next. AI for data insights and research. Okay, here we go. So it gave us output. Again, it gave us a basic analysis here, but it gave us all these different visualizations too. It actually created that through Python. And now we can see a lot more interesting visualizations and analysis that's done here. Again, AI is not doing this, it's doing it indirectly through writing the code to do this. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I see that there's stuff in the chat. Let's see. Oh, yes, there'll be questions at the end. So, no, this is definitely Python here. Yeah. So anyway, we'll come back to the questions. Okay. So AI for data insights and research. Now, this is interesting. This actually applies more to the students I work with in a day-by-day basis. Our students are mostly dealing with economics and politics and history, stuff like that. So AI can help us with just doing the analysis, the your core analysis here. So it can extract insights. This is where something like exploratory data analysis comes into play. And economic students are very interested in this. They want some of this baseline data. This comes from a data set we're going to look at in just a moment about population in Japan. But oops, we'll come back to that. But it can do more on that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to back to ChatGPT. I'm going to do a new chat. And then this time I'm going to upload, the data I'm going to upload is going to be Japan demographics. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to do a couple things. So first I want to see, can you visualize this data? Then wait for me to ask more questions. Okay. Okay, here we go. So it's doing its analysis here. There we go. So it's pulling in the data and running it. Now, the way this data is structured, if we look at it, it's running like this. It's more presentational in the way the Excel spreadsheet, not necessarily the best format for it to use in a computer program, especially like Tableau. Tableau, you would have to restructure this data somehow. Oops, and I actually hit the wrong button there. Okay, there we go. There we go. But it's able to transform it in a way it needs to actually work with it. Okay, here we go. So it does analyze this. Now, if I'm just looking at this on my own, I can make it interactive. I can see that this line here, and let me make these colors a little bit clearer because they're kind of similar. Okay, population. Okay, here we go. So green is going to be middle-aged people, basically. This one here is going to be young people. And then this is the older population here, 65 and older. So you can see if if we know something about Japan and demographics, we can see that there's something going on here that is kind of interesting. Whether or not we actually understand what this is another thing, but there's some stuff going on here. So at this point, what I would do is done the visualization. Now it's saying, okay, I'm ready for your next thing. So I'm going to say, based on the data and visualization, can you give me insight into the top policy issue related to what is shown? Okay, I don't know. That may not be the best prompt, but let's just see what it gives us. Because I want to know, okay, based upon this, what's the biggest thing that you take away from this? Okay, and it's basically demographic trends, population aging, and its impact on economic. So this is basically what, based upon the data and the visualization, this is the key thing it wants to analyze or to think about. Declining youth population. So this is actually a real thing in Japan. They're declining birth rate, and they just don't have as many young people to kind of replace the older people. Declining work age population, and rapid growth of elderly population. So older people have access to better medicine, they're living longer. So although I'm just saying that you'd actually want to have data to back that up, but it does give us some suggestions about this, about some of the things we should be thinking about with this. So what it's doing is it's top policy issue, aging population and workforce sustainability, and what that actually means in terms of impact on real policies. So this is good. This is the insights and analysis I would want to do. We might be able to extract some of that kind of understanding from our own analysis, and data analysts do. Obviously, that's their job. But AI can, if it can speed up that process, give us some clues about what maybe we should be thinking about. Okay. What else can you tell me about Japan based on the data visualization? Okay. And again, this is just exploratory at this point. It's just really basic to bring up areas for research. So population decline. So, that might bring up issues about how to increase the population, either through, immigration or through increased birth rate. So this is good. So this is exactly what students I work with can use this tool for. So it's not actually doing the research for them. And the way that we teach it here at the university is not to have it do your work for you, but to help you brainstorm, to help you explore the topic and the data, and bring up avenues for further research. And you can see it's done that fairly well. Now, I would do this in a little bit more systematic way, but this is good just to give some demonstration of what it can do. Now, I will stop there because I do want to leave some time for the questions. And I don't know the if there's a particular way we want to do this. So we could go through this one by one. Let's see. Okay. Well,
Rob,
let's just go. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, there is a question about how to address citation or acknowledgement of having used
Ah,
AI for data work.
good question. Yes. So I'll start with this. We'll come back to some of these other ones. Okay. So that one, yeah, that's an issue because we do have faculty here, including myself, that are okay with students using AI for their work, but they should cite it. Now, there is with the recent versions of Chicago uh, citation AI. There is now ways to cite AI directly in there. Let's see. Oh, and that's not very helpful. Actually, let me redo that. Let's do APA, actually. Okay. So let's see. We got that there. Okay, how to cite, this is it. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Now, there's a different ways to do it, and Purdue OWL is really good, but this is actually from APA style, how to cite ChatGPT. So there are ways to do it, and the one that I can mention here is something like this. Now, I would keep an eye on this because as these tools evolve, the way that they're cited might also evolve as well. But this is something I would have a student do. I would say, okay, if you're going to use AI and allowing it in the classroom, um, basically let me know that you're doing it. You know, I'm okay with it, but just admit that you're doing it. Don't act or claim that, you know, something produced by ChatGPT is your work. And there are ways to do it through official citation styles. So I think all of them, MLA, Chicago, and Turabian, all um, have ways to cite AI produced content. Okay. Other than not uploading private and sensitive data, do you have other cautions about uploading real data? Um, so, well, one of the ways that the AI works is that and there's like the fine print here, and in theory in ChatGPT you could turn this off, but if you upload your data, it actually will use your data to train its future models. Um, and the question is whether or not you want to be part of that, you know. So OpenAI, at least part of it, a good part of it is a for-profit company. So when you're uploading data, especially if it's data you put a lot of work into, you're actually giving that data to them for free, unless you opt out of that, and there's a way to do it, I think. And are you okay with that? Do you want to help these companies make more money, and they're not necessarily going to pay you for you giving them their data? So that's something to consider. But the biggest thing, of course, is the privacy sensitive data, because the information you're giving to them is going to be part of their kind of knowledge base. In theory, if you upload personal data, someone else can come across it when it's getting an output. I think there has been instances of that, although that doesn't happen all the time, but you know, it's something to think about. Okay, before I go into these, let's see. AI is a good interpreter for programming languages. Yes and no. It can do some basic stuff. So in particular, Claude is good. If you ask Claude to output a JavaScript game Snake, you know, create the game Snake in JavaScript, it can do that and it'll actually run the code and let you play with the game. But I would not do it here. I would use more kind of traditional tools like VS Code and some of the programming languages that you can install with that, or another tool like Python directly or something like that. But it definitely does work well with code, syntax, and teaching code. Okay. Yeah, and JavaScript is good to get started. And the cool thing about a tool like this is that it can help you learn this. It can help you learn JavaScript. So you can tell it, hey, teach me how JavaScript works, and it can take you through it one by one. Thanks for the link about the citation. That's cool. Okay, how are you teaching students to verify outputs? I'm thinking they may not know. Yes, so this is kind of this is the big caveat right now in the world of AI and pedagogy teaching, is that if students grab that code, if they don't actually know how to code, they aren't computer science students or have never studied it, they're basically just trusting what they get. If it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, then maybe they ask AI to fix it. That is the problem. And that kind of comes back to like some of the language stuff too. It outputs text that's really good, but the students don't actually know how to write that in the first place. So the question is if it's skipping or basically short-circuiting a learning process. Now the question is whether or not being able to actually code is going to be a long-term skill that we actually want to learn. Or will these tools become so good that coding is just something that it does behind the scenes, and what we're doing is actually just telling it what we want through natural language? It's a good question, though. This is what we're grappling with right now in education, and probably not just here. I think it's across the world, really. What part does AI play in the learning process? Does it sabotage the learning process? How do we deal with that? Okay, why cite AI at all? Would you cite Python? Now, that's good. I would not. No. It's interesting. I might disclose that I used AI to write the Python code, but Python is a general programming language. Um, as far as I know, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't believe you can copyright your Python code. And one person could write basically the identical Python code as another person, and they can do it independently, and that's happens often, so it is a deep philosophical question. And yeah, this is something. So I wouldn't necessarily cite Python, but it depends on the course. If it's a computer science course, professor might actually want to know that. But if it's a history course, I'm using Python to do some analysis. I wouldn't necessarily tell a history professor that I used AI to make Python code. But again, you get into a lot of questions there. Now, if AI site, can the link be traceable? Reusable and persistent. There are ways to make the link reusable and persistent. Yes. So if we go back here, if I did all this analysis and I want my professor to see exactly how I prompted this, not just the output I got, I could click something here called share. And this allows me to create a public persistent link as long as I still have the account and I pay. I can make it discoverable, but at the very least, I would just want to copy it, and then I can use this to get the whoever wants to see it back to my actual full chat, so they can see the whole thing from like start to finish. I believe that Claude also has this feature here. Yes. So again, you only mess up. Okay, so I have to do this in the beginning, but you can share it here as well. Oh, here we go. Yeah, now I can actually change it. If I make it shareable, then it becomes public. So that's a good question because that is one way to get them to the exact prompt. So if the professor is interested in learning, oh, how do you actually get to this point, the answer, they can see that. Okay. Yes, so that's exactly right. Okay, code can be copyrighted, so that's good to know. Okay, so then that brings up issues. So is the copyright owned by Claude if it produced the code? That brings up some more questions on there. Okay, yeah, it definitely is a big deal in publishing. Absolutely, and there's lawsuits, several big lawsuits about that. Okay, so yeah, so there we go. So it varies. there. Any other questions? So this was a fairly quick overview of the various ways that AI is being used in the data analytics, data visualization arena. I just scratched the surface really of what you can do, but the main thing I want you to take away is that you can interactively work with your data if you want to do that. You can also output code, then you can take that and work with data separately. You can gain insights from the data. And actually, I think that's the most useful one, at least for students I work with. And then you can actually have AI review your data and identify problems, the cleaning process. And you can actually transform data. One thing I did not show, which is pretty cool, I'll just show this really quickly, is I have this data set here. And maybe I want to use this in a JavaScript program. And what I would do is I would basically say, can you, let me just move transform my data into JSON, just that, let's just do it. So it's originally Excel spreadsheet, but maybe I want to use it to work with JavaScript or with a React program. So, and you can see it actually does do that. It actually is outputting this as properly formatted JSON. So again, this is another thing I could do if I didn't do this. There's various ways to do it. One way is manually, and that can be really tedious. There's other shortcuts to do it within writing scripts and so forth. But this is a quick way to do it. So I just need JSON code. I don't want to like mess around with it. As long as I'm not bothered by the data being uploaded, there we go. Okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you for the code can be copyrighted. Yes, that's good to know. And the link is helpful as well. All right. Okay, and yes, thanks for this insight as well. Yes. Okay, so unless there's other questions, that's basically what I have for this presentation. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And of course, I'm happy to speak after, or you can email me if you have any other questions.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording soon, but if you want to stay here and have a further conversation with Robert, feel free to stay a little bit longer.